Thank you, Steve. Welcome back to the home of Grand Prix racing. It is round 12 of F1 in 2022, and we're at the Technicolor wonderland of this unique racetrack as the cars move on to their formation lap at Circuit Paul Ricard. There are 167 versions of this facility. Our iteration runs to 3.6 miles across 15 turns, and they've elongated the time that you have to spend under the pit lane speed limiter. It means that a one-stop is significantly faster. Last year's race won by Max Verstappen on a two-stop, but it's medium and hard tyres the way to go. The soft simply is not lasting around this racetrack. The temperature for the track is 51 degrees. The air temperature is 30, and it's going to be Leclerc versus Verstappen for the 6th time off the front row in this season, but a big milestone for Lewis Hamilton, who becomes the 6th driver to reach 300 Grand Prix starts, and his stats read 103 poles, 186 podiums and 103 Grand Prix victories. But it's not been the weekend that he and Mercedes were hoping for. They're a long way off compared to Red Bull and Ferrari at the front of the field. So dispiriting for him. He will need a little bit of drama if he is to take his place on the podium. And now we see on board with Sergio Perez, who struggled on Friday. He's looking to take that step forward like he did yesterday, but he probably is going to play a strategic foil for Charles Leclerc, because if you're thinking where is Carlos Sainz, he has gone over his allotted engine components, and as a result he is at the back with Kevin Magnussen. Sainz and Magnussen much faster than their grid positions at the rear of the field. And Verstappen is trying to make it 2 wins in a row at this circuit, but he's got Charles Leclerc directly in front of him, David.
He has indeed, and they're on merit. That Ferrari once again in his hands, showing that they can exploit the Pirelli tyres over one lap. This is going to be a real challenge, though, for all the drivers to try and do the minimum amount of damage to those front tyres. I agree with you that I think this is more than likely going to push them towards 2 stops. If they had that in Austria, how can they possibly make 1 stop last here on this circuit? It's just too demanding and too hot.
You're looking at home hero Pierre Gasly. He will try and fight his way into the points, but the second half of the season begins with the French Grand Prix, and it's next. The last car in position is Kevin Magnussen. It is time for 53 laps of Circuit Paul Ricard, and for the 6th time this season we have Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen on the front row. Here come the lights when they go out. We'll be racing in La Castellet. We're underway for the French Grand Prix. Good reaction time for Charles Leclerc. He needed it, and immediately chopping in is Lewis Hamilton, putting pressure on Max Verstappen. It's Charles Leclerc into the lead of the race. Sergio Perez has lost a place. It's Leclerc, Verstappen, and then up to 3rd goes Lewis Hamilton as they make their way through the high speeds, turn 1 and 2, with the Ferrari in the lead. Then it's Verstappen. Up to 3rd goes Lewis Hamilton in his 300th Grand Prix start, and then it's Sergio Perez in 4th, up to 5th position. Storming start from Fernando Alonso, who moves up from 7th on the grid to 5th by the time he gets to turn number 5.
Lightning start for Lewis Hamilton, took advantage of that good drive off the start finish. It was nip and tuck between the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen. They were almost identical as he pulled away on the line, and Leclerc now will focus on trying to drop Verstappen in these early couple of laps before DRS becomes active.
They're all fighting their way through. Esteban Ocon making contact and spinning round Yuki Tsunoda, who made Q3 yesterday, but he's stranded at the North Chicane. Contact between the second Alpine and the lead AlphaTauri from the grid, and that, can he get going in the background? He can, so he won't require a safety car at this stage. That was tied into senior corner with Stroll and Alex Albon battling, and now Stroll getting ahead of the Williams, and now Stroll trying to take his teammate. What a couple of corners for the Canadian driver roaring through.
Yeah, I think contrasting tyres, we've got Vettel. No, actually, they're both on the medium. I mistakenly thought Vettel had gone for the hards. But it's really a case of, well, how much risk do you want to take on these tyres on the opening laps? Because we know thermal degradation is a huge issue on the Pirelli. So you can hit it hard on the first couple of laps, looking good, and then just run out of tyres very quickly.
It's the first lap of the Grand Prix that Charles Leclerc was looking for. He is just about a second ahead of Verstappen. That's going to be very important on lap 3 when DRS is enabled. Lewis Hamilton was straight up into third position, so Sergio Perez knows he's got a faster car with 1 lap pace. Can that remain the case when it comes to the race trim? We're on board with Esteban Ocon. He was up against Yuki Tsunoda.
Yeah, this was into turn 9, and well, something very similar happened in the F2 race earlier today, where they bounced off the inside curb and that launched them into the car on the outside. There was enough space for the two of them to get through there, but in the end didn't work out, and racing incident, but if had to be called, it was more Ocon's fault.
So that is a part of the racetrack where he's catching drivers out, as you say. Kevin Magnussen up seven positions. That is a mighty opening lap. Lance Stroll with a couple of moves into this part of the racetrack. And crucially, without DRS, Max Verstappen just inching closer to Charles Leclerc. Started the lap a second behind. It's now 9/10 of a second, 8/10 of a second earlier on. Can he stay there before DRS? What an opening tour from Kevin Magnussen.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. Sainz only gained 3 places. I expected the Ferrari to be, gaining even in the run to the first corner, but he's obviously taken a fairly cautious approach to that opening lap.
Bottas has lost 6 places further down the order as well, and you saw the spin for Yuki Tsunoda. Kevin Magnussen is now up to 12th position. He's got past Alex Albon, one of the opening laps of his entire career.
Yeah, is he going to run out of tyres though? That is the question. He may, as I explained earlier, he may have gone all in and forgotten that we've got 50-odd degree track temperature and 100 kilos of fuel on board.
And one thing that the drivers pointed out from Austria is you can take these tyres to a temperature, you can spike the temperature, and then they don't recover for the rest of the stint. They're very, very wary of that. Let's have a look at the race start.
You see there, initial getaway actually, Charles Leclerc was maybe slightly better on reaction time, but then the drive of the Red Bull thereafter was pretty good. Lewis Hamilton, very racy, and I think in a different season you might have seen him try and battle out with Max into turn 1, but I think he'd be quite happy with gaining that 1 place on board with them. Just listen. Absolutely spot on, no wheel spin, all drive, and look at that, he's getting a slipstream off the back of the Ferrari, thinks about it with Max, and then thinks, well, actually, you know what, let's play the long game.
We have seen these two go wheel to wheel so many times this year. It has always been clean. It has always been respectful. They've almost done it with a smile on their face. I think we're about to get another one of those battles. Crucially for Charles Leclerc now, the exit from turn 6 and the final corner of the racetrack is going to define whether he can stay ahead of the Red Bull. Esteban Ocon getting a 5-second penalty for hitting Yuki Tsunoda at the chicane. The top 2 in the Grand Prix are making their way towards, and an illustration there of how useful that DRS is. Nothing between the top 2 in the championship. It's Verstappen who leads by 38 points.
Controlling yourself well at the moment. Good pace.
I think that's a slightly sort of cryptic message of tyre temperatures are okay, brake temperatures are okay. I'm not really sure 4 laps into the race that it benefits Max much, but you can see where the Ferrari has the downforce advantage, so it's a little bit more comfortable in this tighter section of the lap, and then Max will pull it back on the straights.
We were talking about Kevin Magnussen having a terrific run through the field. Not quite the same progress for Carlos Sainz, who started in 19th position. He has gained 4 places. But remember what we saw in Canada, where it took Charles Leclerc a while to clear the drivers through the field. It wasn't hot knife through butter stuff. It was wait for a while. He is on the hard tyres, though, so the race could come back to him as we ride on board with the championship leader, who is just staying within that window. But the question now becomes, as you've pointed out, David, how long can he sustain this sort of attack without doing serious damage to those medium tyres?
Yeah, it's also going to be interesting to see just how powerful the DRS is on this circuit. It's one thing to be a little bit quicker, like for like, wing for wing, but you've got to be close enough to be alongside in the braking zones. And at the moment, I just don't think Max is.
At the moment, the exit through that corner, that is 6 track limits defined by the white line, as it was in Austria, as it has been all season. But turn 6 is where things are sometimes triggering those track limits, and the drivers get warnings. You can see once again the effectiveness of the DRS as Max closes in at the North Chicane. Talking of closing in, the second Red Bull in the Grand Prix order is now really pressuring Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, he's well in that DRS zone and more likely to get a pass done on the Mercedes, which is just underlying paces nowhere near as good as Red Bull on this circuit. Just another thought on when you have the DRS, it puts more load on the front axle, so you put more heat in the tyre relative to when you don't have DRS open. So if you're limited with front temperature, it doesn't help you having DRS, of course, because you're putting more heat into those front tyres.
George Russell has cleared Fernando Alonso, who was up at 5th place on the opening lap of the Grand Prix. So Russell now finds himself up to 5th position. Lando Norris losing out. He dropped a couple of places down to 7th. And they were very wary of Carlos Sainz making his way through the field. Once again, this is fantastic to see. Verstappen launching another attack, but we're going to wait to see if Sergio Perez can make his way through. Sergio Perez, the winner of the Monaco Grand Prix. A special day for Lewis Hamilton, hitting the 300 club. No driver has ever won a Grand Prix after reaching 300 races. Lewis Hamilton will be trying to change that statistic by the time he's done in Formula 1.
Yeah, I have to believe it's well within his capabilities, but the battle here at the front continues, and DRS is not actually that powerful here relative to other circuits. And crucially for Charles, he is very fast as he comes through to that section, turn 6, 7 onto the straight. So it all happens a bit too late for Max. A little mistake there for Charles.
First moment we've seen a hint of an error for the race leader. He's been at the front for 6 of the 53 laps that we've got to run, and this is the first real opportunity for Max Verstappen, who's going to be flat all the way to turn 11. That's La Beauce corner, and we're gaining with every metre that we run. Here we go, top 2 in the World Championship, separated by hardly anything. Is Max Verstappen going to be able to tough it out around the outside? One more error for Charles Leclerc is going to let through the driver he's trying to beat to the World Championship.
Yeah, I think what we can see there is that he's got to try and get the pass done into 8, the chicane along the Mistral straight. But just even though he had the slipstream and had the speed as he came through Senior, then it's just too easy for Charles to defend off that corner.
that is Kevin Magnussen saying goodbye to the medium tyres. So that's why he was massively on the attack. Once again, darting out of the slipstream, making himself large in the mirrors. Still no way by for the world champion.
Yeah, it's a very early stop for Magnussen, but that will be vital information for all the other runners out there. They'll be able to look at running in clean air, what lap times he's able to deliver, and that will help build a picture. Because let's remind everybody, they've not done this Grand Prix before. With these tyres, at this track temperature, they are literally making it up on the job. A lot of science behind making it up, but this is the first time they're doing it.
A lot of data available to them. Lewis Hamilton, I think that gap down slightly. Personal best in the first sector, about 6 seconds away. But he's just coming back the last couple of laps as Verstappen restricted to Charles Leclerc's pace at this stage as they come out of the 15th and final corner around this 3.6-mile racetrack. Battle for first position in the Grand Prix, not separated by much. Verstappen choosing to run in that dirty air in a season where reliability has been such a concern. Last time we checked in with Carlos Sainz, he was a couple of places lower down, so he's making swift progress. This is a track that sometimes, if you have that headwind on the Misa Straight, overtaking borderline easy, but they don't have that at the moment.
The pace is good, you're doing a good job.
It doesn't feel that way, but okay.
Slightly frustrated that it's taking this long to get through the field. Also coming into the pits at the moment, Zhou Guanyu and Mick Schumacher. Here is the Haas driver, coming off the best 2 results in his Formula One Grand Prix. First points at Silverstone, an outstanding drive at a circuit which he has always loved in Austria, and fine run through the field there for Schumacher on his way to 6th position, but knocked out after his time was deleted in Q1 yesterday. Looking further back at how far ahead these two are. Hamilton just able to pull clear of Sergio Perez. He's dropped back to about 2.2 seconds behind when he was half a second. Is Carlos Sainz going to be able to launch a move? Not at this stage. There is 0.7 of a second for the lead of the Grand Prix.
We are thinking plan B. Let me know your opinion.
Yeah, copy that.
14 laps on the medium tyres for Charles Leclerc, and you can see there on the inside, it's not looking very friendly.
Now, a little bit of blistering, which in itself is doesn't cost you that much time, but what it does show is the frictional rotation of the high-speed elements of this racetrack. It's just putting a lot of heat on that inside tyre. And if we were looking at that on Max's car, it would make sense, because as I explained, when you run for long periods of DRS, it actually puts more load on the front axle because you're taking load off the rear. So as a balance, it pushes everything onto the front tyre. But his tyres look okay as far as I can tell from that shot. So that may force Charles, if they're worried about delamination, it may force him into a slightly earlier stop.
So Max Verstappen pitted for the hard tyres at the end of lap 18 in 2021. He then went on to make a second stop. We've heard Ferrari talking about plan B. And is that why the gap is beginning to appear? As low as 0.4 of a second, now out to 1.8. Charles Leclerc this season had plenty of race victories slip through his fingers. Monegasque driver returning to the top step of the podium. Had to wait a long gap between races in Australia and then the triumph in Austria. But as you saw pre-race with Steve, he is a driver who's always very relaxed, but in the last couple of races, certainly post Silverstone, slightly more demanding with the team. The team responding with deploying Carlos Sainz, who had to start at the back, punching a hole in the air yesterday in qualifying, and Sainz pretty punchy afterwards, saying Ferrari get a lot of criticism for the team tactics. We worked well today, helped Charles Leclerc get pole position.
We prefer plan B for Bravo. We prefer plan B for Bravo.
So we talked about the stop of Kevin Magnussen and the data that would show the rest of those in the field. Plan B is being talked about. No resistance from either driver, just accepting it. So clearly discussed in the strategy briefing before the Grand Prix that it was possible that they might have to go a different direction.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because my intelligence that I picked up ahead of the race only told me what plan A was, so I can't shed any light on plan B.
Everyone in the paddock was fairly confident it was going to be a one-stop race because everyone would do a bit of management, everyone would try and reduce the wheel spin at key corners and take the pain of not running at your maximum pace so that you didn't have to lose nearly 60 seconds from your race time by making a second stop as well as your first one. You must run 2 compounds in the Grand Prix. There's no mandatory pit stop, but you must run 2 compounds according to the rule book of Formula One. The slower than Carlos Sainz would like progress continues now. He's trying to pass Daniel Ricciardo, who was angry after qualifying yesterday. Here's a key move in the Grand Prix. In comes Max Verstappen. He pitted on lap 18 last year. It's lap 17 this.
You can see how slow it is at 60 kilometers an hour. Looks like the car's crawling down the pit lane, and it's so long. And a little round of applause to himself. If your audience isn't going to clap for you, then you may as well do it yourself. He's certainly happy with the role he played in the pit stop.
I like that pumped up because it is very hard to change all 4 wheels within 2.4 seconds. This is the bit that's longer. This is what's added the time. You can see it's a very long pit lane, but they used to be off the limiter early.
Hard tires, 0.2 slower than expected, still suffering from overheating.
And that's the data that they've seen with others using the hards. So crucially, Verstappen out ahead of this battle. Ferrari unable to deploy Carlos tactically. Verstappen is 1.6 seconds behind Lando Norris, who is now up to 6th. What do Ferrari do by way of response? 28 seconds is the margin. We will keep an eye on that between Verstappen and Leclerc. If it goes down to 27, the race lead could be in the balance. At the moment, we are focusing on the second Spanish driver to win a Grand Prix. Carlos Sainz closing in, and he is looking for a tidy pass on Daniel Ricciardo, past his old team and up to 9th position. Steady progress continues. So what is Verstappen able to do on this outlap? He's got it down to 27.8. If he can continue that progress, it could be the race lead when the others ahead have to come in and make their stops. Of course, all of that momentum. Well, no, he's got past Lando Norris. So Max Verstappen clearing Lando Norris, all the while closing down the gap on Charles Leclerc. So effective move for him as we focus on the Ferrari ahead. Max Max Verstappen has cleared Lando Norris, and that's important now because he's got 4 seconds of clear air where he can make the difference with the strategy. And it's 27.7, the race lead in the balance. This was the move that Max Verstappen needed to make quickly. And is it going to be a slide error? No, easy as you like. Through you go for Verstappen.
Yeah, I think that that was more a case of him realising, I just don't want to be losing time defending. You know, we've got Norris as his own battle to concentrate on, so it wouldn't have cost him any time to have just taken that slightly wider line through 11, allowing Max through.
Okay, you let me know, please, if he's in or not. I know how to push.
You need to push now. You do need to push. He is not in.
So Verstappen asking for a little bit of information. The average time lost is between 27 and 28. Verstappen very nearly getting inside. Remember, you need a couple of corners of tyre warm-up. Yellow flag in the final sector. And someone's off there. It's the Ferrari into the wall. Charles Leclerc has gone off the road from the race lead. And the Monegasque driver sees another victory slip away in this 2022 season. Charles Leclerc is off the road and out of the Grand Prix.
That's at 11. Has he lost the back end in the middle of the corner? Has there been a failure? We need to wait and see. I hope for him it's a car issue. Otherwise, that is another crucial mistake.
And now everyone can make a free pit stop. So it's a much less time lost in the pit lane now. Hamilton comes in. He's going to benefit. He's going to save about 10 seconds compared to what he would have had. A dramatic moment in the World Championship. In comes Perez as well. Russell is also in the pits. And that is a huge moment in the World Championship as Charles Leclerc heavily off the road. The safety car is out to bring a flurry of action. And the Ferrari finds itself off the road at Le Beausset corner. Hamilton, did he maintain? No, he didn't. So Verstappen retook the lead, and Hamilton comes out in just a couple of seconds, but Hamilton now second position, third for Perez. One Ferrari running in the race.
It's a slow stop for Sainz, and an unsafe release as well to boot.
Ferrari's race unravelling in this last couple of minutes.
Yeah, 100%. That'll get referred to the stewards, and I struggle to see why they won't be given some sort of penalty for that.
Yeah, look clear. A race that was in control. A race that was in control in the grasp of Ferrari. They still had the net race lead. Leclerc was pushing on. The safety car out. We've yet to see a replay of what happened there. High-speed part of the track. And there you go. So Charles Leclerc's car being pushed behind the barrier. But that is an enormous moment in the World Championship when the lead is already 38 points.
You can see that blistering in the front tyre. That replay, here we go. So through Senior, flat out, down into 11 on the brakes, turns in, and loses the rear. Oh, Charles. Nice driver error. Unless he's got a puncture or some other issue with the car.
We see it so many times around this racetrack. The driver can make the difference. But the man who has now not converted his last 5 pole positions in Formula One, frustration for the crowd, utter dejection for the Monegasque driver, who sees his chance of victory fade and his hopes in the championship as well.
Are you okay?
I cannot get throttle.
He couldn't close the throttle.
Now it's 0%.
Okay. Is that a carry through? Is that a carry through from what we saw in Austria, where he had a throttle issue?
He said on the radio he couldn't close the throttle. It nearly cost him victory in Austria. An absolute scream of desperation because he knows how significant that moment in the championship is. Once again in 2022, Ferrari and Charles Leclerc see victory slip through their fingers, and it's Verstappen versus Hamilton to win the French Grand Prix. Yuki Tsunoda, who was hit in the early part of the race, looks like he is going to retire, but if that is a mechanical issue for Ferrari again, I'm not sure what Charles Leclerc is going to say. The patient man who spoke to Steve Jones before the race might just disappear.
He's all right?
Yes, I'm told he's okay, Max. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, sporting gesture there from Max. And as his competitor makes his way back. I think you understand, Alex, but maybe for people at home, when I'm saying that I was hoping it was a mechanical issue rather than driver error, because I believe so much in Charles as a driver. He's such a quality individual that it's just be so painful to imagine that the error was, you know, resting firmly with him, because that would then continue to sort of show off the back of Imola where he made a mistake, that would be his Achilles heel.
The safety car is ending. This Grand Prix continues after potentially a defining moment in the World Championship. Lewis Hamilton said he was hoping for a podium today. He can go all in now. He doesn't have to worry about the championship. Max Verstappen knows this is a golden opportunity to extend his advantage. And what we've seen from the other single-seater races so far this year is when you get round turn 12, go early, bolt, and try and leave the pack behind, because if you leave it any later, you can be vulnerable by the time you get to the North Chicane. Here we go, defining moment. Charles Leclerc is out of the Grand Prix, and we haven't said this for a while. Verstappen versus Hamilton for the lead.
Yep, and you called it right. He's gone early and trying to shake off Hamilton. And it remains to be seen. Well, looks about, actually looks as if Perez might be a little bit vulnerable to George Russell, who's done a good restart there.
Great restart for Max Verstappen, 9/10 of a second as they went over the line, exactly what he was looking for. Here's Carlos Sainz diving to the inside of Daniel Ricciardo, immediately making the place and up to 7th position. No message from race control about investigating that at the moment, but the way he rejoined, you would expect that to be looked at in the next couple of moments. Can Hamilton stay within a second? Can he find the sort of performance that he has been really desperate for from the W13, the troublesome car for the 8-time constructor champions in a row? And yet this year Hamilton is on his longest winless streak in Formula One. Verstappen with the race lead up against his old sparring partner from last year. This is an attacking lap from Carlos Sainz on the medium tyre. Both McLarens dispatched, they're all on the hard. He's gone in a different direction. He's the only one in the top 10 on that medium rubber.
Yeah, it's worked well for him, the safety car. Obviously not well for Ferrari overall, but that's brought him back into this race and with a real chance of getting up and getting onto the back of Russell.
So he has a chance to rescue a podium. See how much progress Sainz can make. Sainz did look all weekend long like the more comfortable Ferrari driver, but he is absolutely inspired at the moment. It's easier to switch on a medium tyre than it is a hard tyre, but at the moment he is tearing through the field. Next up, trying to make his 3rd pass on this lap. He's looking to clear his hero, Fernando Alonso, and the two Spaniards, they align astern at the moment. Fastest lap of the race for Max Verstappen, who knows he needs to convert this chance to take an even bigger lead in the World Championship. Is it going to be another pass? Or he thought about it. Alonso not making it easy, and progress checked for the moment for Sainz.
Yeah, surely he'll get close enough through the little twisty section here and the exit of 6 through the kink at 7 onto the first part of the Mistral Straight, and Alonso will surely not be able to defend as Charles Leclerc, helmet on, which is international racing driver message of I'm not talking to anybody.
That is brutal stuff. If it's a mechanical issue, here comes the Ferrari moving past the Alpine, and that is solid progress for Carlos Sainz, who has a lot of pace underneath him on this medium rubber, taking the benefit So went the opposite way, hoping for an incident. The problem for Ferrari is it was caused by the other one of their cars. Now Sainz is going to put pressure on Russell, but at the moment Sainz just absolutely phenomenal pace out there and able to dispatch both the McLarens and the Alpines. 2 seconds the gap between Hamilton and Verstappen. Hamilton not able to stay with Verstappen on that restart. How far can Sainz get? With a yellow flag in the third sector, can hear the crowd booing about something, and that's the reason why Kevin Magnussen finds himself, no, it was Mick Schumacher, it's the wrong graphic, and Mick Schumacher finds himself the wrong direction, and after two great weekends, it's back down to earth for the son of the 7-time world champion.
Yeah, I think it was actually a crowd reaction rather than a booing, wasn't it? That,
booing, rather than booing.
Yeah, but you've got to see the French crowd have been pretty spectacular this weekend. They have been waving their flags from early morning. Great enthusiasm. I don't know if they're all being paid to look so happy or whether it just genuinely is. They're delighted to be here.
Okay, looks like Joe Guan Yu is involved as well.
Front right end plate missing, so we're going to replay it, and it takes a bit longer of course to do the nose and tyres.
So the Alpha back into the Grand Prix. This is what happened on board with the Chinese driver. Are we about to see a Haas trying to peer around the outside? We are. And when they, just losing it on the exit of Le Beauce and clobbering the Haas.
Well, 2-1 don't go there. It would have been a great move had it come off, but I think that what we have to acknowledge is that if you're on that inside line, there is only one thing that you're doing once you've gone through the apex, which is drifting wide, and Mick didn't quite manage to clear him before that happened.
Race control have got to looking at Carlos Sainz, and it is a 5-second penalty for Carlos Sainz for an unsafe release. They pitted the second of their cars under the safety car that was caused by their first, and 60 seconds of nightmare. French Grand Prix has ruined the races for both drivers. You can see how much Russell's hanging on to it through turn 6. We're on board as we head to the chicane.
Yeah, that was a big dose of oversteer, but he's in that DRS activation zone. You've got Perez there, just being held back a little bit, and again, not able to get onto the back of Hamilton. Close enough for DRS, which will neutralise George, but not fast enough. And here's a replay of this unsafe release. So, a bit longer to get that front jack out of the way. And excuse me, this is...
So it's the slow stop.
Yeah, the slow stop there.
And then an unsafe release.
Yeah, that was just sloppy, wasn't it?
The house of cards falls apart for Ferrari.
What I couldn't quite see, though, why the stop was so slow, because it stopped actually working on the car.
not immediately clear.
Unfortunately, we have a 5 second stop and go penalty. We're serving at the next pit stop.
It's not stop and go, it's
5 second penalty, yeah, sorry, 5 second penalty.
Sainz correcting his engineer.
That's brilliant, actually, because as I'm so trusting of engineers, I'm thinking, have they upgraded the penalty? I'm pretty sure we read 5 seconds, which can be added. And yeah, Sainz on it.
Sainz could have still played a part at the sharp end of this Grand Prix if it had not been for the slow stop in this.
Oh, yeah, quicker than this guy, you know?
Yeah, we are quicker. We are in the race.
Could have been really in the race. It's faster than the race leader by 0.2 of a second. What could have been for Ferrari in this Grand Prix? It's the story of the season. Fast, but fragile. And it slipped away from them. But Sainz still has laps to use. And the drivers pushing the tyres a long way here. We could yet see more drama. There's always moments of brinkmanship at the chicane that they are all heading to now. If you're a leading driver in the Grand Prix, Verstappen, Hamilton, Perez, then Russell and Sainz. 5 seconds to be added at the next stop. Nice and subtle. Nice and subtle there as well.
I guess technically correct, and as much as if they weren't doing another stop, it would be at the end of the race. It would be added.
Thrilling corners of Seen and Lebosse, the most challenging part of the racetrack. And in the middle sector, Carlos Sainz is the fastest car on track, and he's roaring up to the back of George Russell. As expected, Zhou Guanyu with a 5 second penalty. He was not really intending to head into the side. It wasn't over ambitious, it was just a correction to keep his car pointing in a straight line, but that correction sent him into the side of the Haas. And 5 seconds added to his race time or next pit stop. The driver who has been on the points on 2 occasions so far this year. Now, Sainz versus Russell, as Ferrari try to rescue something from this race.
Yeah, George Russell will be informed that Sainz does have that 5 seconds to be added, but I'm not sure he's going to be able to do much to defend against a DRS-shod Ferrari on different tyres to boot. Sainz on medium tyre, so it's all about getting good drive out onto the Mistral straight.
The wonderful sound of the V6 turbocharged engine as he drops down through the gears and all about the exit here. Sometimes get different lines, sometimes it can look like a driver's going wide in the North chicane. There's alternative lines here, turn 5, turn 15, sometimes into turn 8 as well. Sainz within striking distance.
Yeah, you can see very clearly where Hamilton is in second. How Sainz does have with that safety car. It's brought him back into this Grand Prix and a real chance of a podium.
Last lap, Norris did a 39.3, gained a little bit in sector 3.
Yeah, no problem. I want them very close to me to kill the tires.
Copy that, mate. Just keeping you posted.
This is Pierre Gasly choosing his own adventure, taking all of the Mistral straight after looking for the move on Alex Albon and overshooting.
Yeah, overspeed with the DRS and just not able to get the car stopped, and rather than risk getting a penalty, managed to get it through the predefined cones that you have to go through. Maybe it cost him some time, clearly.
Carlos Sainz has forced George Russell to a really defensive part of the racetrack. He's not on the racing line. He hasn't been on the racing line for 2 corners now. The Ferrari on the attack. He's got the run. He's out of the toe. He's pulling alongside. We're heading to turn 10, known as Senior Corner, and roaring around the outside and taking the position is Carlos Sainz. It's flat through there. That's a mega move.
Yeah, slowly but surely he pushed George into a situation where he just couldn't keep it on the line, and then of course you compromise your exits. The underlying pace of the Ferrari just too much for him.
He's now trying to build a gap. It's all started at the chicane.
Yeah, he was very defensive, George, to cut off the inside, and then you can see that that puts him out of position. And then with a cleaner run, and my goodness, he almost put his rear wing under the floor of the Mercedes. And then it was a case of, right, we're going to play chicken, who's lifting first? And George on that inside line had to.
So George Sainz likely will try to get to the end if he stops. He doesn't feature in our race.
So don't fight. Carlos Sainz, the message on the radio to George Russell. Russell in his first season with Mercedes, chasing a 4th podium of the year. No Mercedes driver has been in the top 2 this year, as they are having their most difficult season since 2013. And with 5.8 seconds between Verstappen and Hamilton, Harris still stuck 1.1 seconds behind. Sainz beginning to close the gap to both of them. They're looking at the battle in the midfield. Pierre Gasly, who has failed to score in more races this year than the entirety of last. They had an amazing car last year, weren't always able to deliver the results. The driver who started on the front row in Qatar and was on the podium in the Azerbaijan Grand Prix last year. His best result coming this season in Baku again, that was 5th place, but Baku for Gasly is his only points finish in the last 8 races. With Lewis Hamilton, who had a minor lock-up at turn 15 and a moment of oversteer on the exit of 2.
On power, trying to maintain the pace and keep Perez at bay. You see blistering on the inside shoulder of Sainz now on those medium tyres. So Ferrari seem to be the ones that are blistering the tyres. We saw Charles Leclerc before his spin at turn 11.
Sainz now would really be in play if it wasn't for this penalty.
So Sainz 3 ahead, we think his tyre will start to drop from onwards.
Yeah, it's an educated guess because just like his teammate, he's got the blistering. It's all right for Charles Leclerc before his dramatic off the headline of the French Grand Prix. But the statistic being predicted is that Sainz will be able to cruise up to Perez. The information from Mercedes is that medium tyre is about to lose performance. Only one can be right. I think we're going to have to wait long to find out the answer. We're continuing to monitor Pierre Gasly, trying to give the crowd here something to cheer about. He will be a frustrated character. Used to troubling Q3 across all of last year. This year, just scrapping to get into the points. Had that sprint race collision with Lewis Hamilton as well. 1.5 seconds the gap. So just looking at the sector times, last time around Carlos Sainz was half second faster than Perez, the driver who's climbed 15 places in the race so far. Medium C3 tyre. The longest run last year was 24 laps on that tyre. And Sainz is now on his 16th tour with the medium rubber. From one French driver in Pierre Gasly to another in Esteban Ocon. And this is important for fourth in the Constructors' Championship. Things look to be swinging away from Daniel Ricciardo at the moment because Ocon had to wait a while for this opportunity. He's got momentum and he will be running closer, closer, closer still all the time, getting up to the back of the rear wing of that McLaren. Now can he dive to the inside? No, he doesn't want to do that. Trying to force the error and a little bit of the aero wash. That's what happens if you get too close to the car in front. He had to back out of it slightly there as Esteban Ocon stares at the back of that McLaren for another lap.
It's quite easy to defend down into turn 11, even if you're slipstreaming and gaining time through senior corner. The car in front can just cover off that inside line, forcing you to go around the outside. It almost worked for Mick, but as you can see, it does get a bit of a pinch point at the last part of 11. You see the damage, I think, in that front wing end plate from that earlier contact.
Increasing bid for freedom, that end fence of the Alpine, all caused the start of the race. Here's Stroll.
And Lance, we need to be careful with the chin.
Yes, leave me alone.
Happy Lance. He used to get that treatment from Brad, his old engineer on the radio, and now he dishes it back the other way. Brad's been promoted, doesn't have to deal with it anymore. So Carlos Sainz, his progress obviously checked now, having to run to the pace of Perez, but he's much faster each time around with the use of DRS. He's able to pump in the lap times. Let's hear from the driver P2.
Is anyone else having deck?
Yeah, just commenting about that. Looks like last couple of laps, seeing it on a lot of cars. Maybe win.
Pete Bonington sounds like he's on his sofa at home, not the engineer for a driver that is second place in the French Grand Prix.
Yeah, I think it just shows the capacity these guys with the big brains have. They're able to take in all that information, and he's worked long enough with Lewis to know the best way to get things out of Lewis and performance out of Lewis is by remaining calm.
So just looking at the various performances in the sectors of this Grand Prix, Hamilton with the fastest first sector in the race so far. The final two-thirds of the lap belonging to Max Verstappen. And this was coming lap after lap after lap, finally into the chicane. Gasly in front of his very own grandstand. Something for the Gasly family to cheer, even if it is just a move for 14th place. French driver at the French Grand Prix, why not cheer every overtake as he tries to recover the positions?
Everyone must be struggling with the left front.
Okay, understood.
Yellow flag in the first sector, and round has gone Nicholas Latifi. So Latifi drops down the order, and for a racetrack where you have to go a long way to have an incident, we're seeing a fair few today. The Canadian driver rejoins. He has yet to trouble the scorers so far this year. He's the only regular in the field that applies to, and he got ahead and then was run off the road and lost the car as he was scrapping with the Haas.
It was scrappy, wasn't it? It was a scrappy scrap.
It really was. It really was a scrappy scrap. Kevin Magnussen trying to keep his foot in. He's known as a robust defender, and a pirouette for the Canadian driver Nicholas Latifi.
We are considering plan A, everything, and you let me know.
We need to decide now. But I think it's difficult.
Back to plan A. So he's really got blistering at the front there.
Really give plan B a chance, did they?
No.
You can't know if it was wrong if you don't try it.
Clearly planning to come in again, but are they going to try and keep him out there? Another retirement, this time for Kevin Magnussen. And this is Alexander Albon, Sebastian Vettel. And a change of position, through goes Vettel up to 11th place.
No, we cannot pass.
Okay,
So
understood. Copy.
think about it.
Okay, copy. Plan D confirmed then. Plan D confirmed. Clearing
Gone to
traffic
D?
behind.
So we've gone from B to A to D.
Those strategy meetings at Ferrari must last for hours.
Well, they certainly help keep us off the scent, don't they?
So plan E then. Sainz doesn't believe he can get past the Red Bull. In a mirror of what we saw at the start of the race, where it was Verstappen and Leclerc.
So does that mean come in, get a fresh set of tyres, and then sprint it to the end?
That will be a long stop time. Would lose 33 seconds if he was to do that, all things being well.
Yeah, that would put him out of the race, surely.
Do we know if Red Bull is stopping or not?
I think they stay out till the end.
Then let's stop. If not, we're not gonna have enough laps to catch.
Okay, stay out, stay out.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's a big amount of time to make up, isn't it? I don't think he's got a second a lap on the Red Bulls, even on old tyres, unless they literally fall off the cliff in terms of their available grip.
Slightly snookered at this point, can't get ahead, taking the pain of running in the dirty air of a car and stressing the tyres more. Sainz has said it would be critical to take these tyres to the end of the race. He's the closest he's been in a while. For the first time, Sergio Perez has been forced to throw a defensive shape. So Sainz knows if he's going to get past, he's going to have to do it on the racetrack. He's probably turned down the stop. This is where he got past George Russell. This is where he's trying to get past Sergio Perez. and improve on track at least to third place. Side by side they run. Will he keep his foot in? No, he wasn't given much room there. And there's the reason they call him the Mexican Minister of Defense. You've seen it once again from Sergio Perez. But can he stay ahead? He was forced deep through Lavose corner. He is masterful at placing the car in a position that is difficult for the driver behind. Oh, it's tight again. Brilliant stuff between these two. Is he going to try and go for the dive bomb move? Will he risk it into turn 15? He will. He barges through.
Not now, not now, not now.
No, not now, because I'm wheel to wheel with the Monaco Grand Prix winner. These two battle for that race. These two are battling for the final place on the podium. Superb racing, and his engineer can talk to him now because he's up to third position.
That was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And to go around the outside in 14, well, I don't remember ever seeing that. Never mind saying you don't see that very often.
That was brave stuff. And if those tyres were going to be critical at the end of the Grand Prix, he is going to have to be very, very careful.
Come on, guys. I got you going to be boxed.
It's going to be a really intense debrief down at Ferrari afterwards.
I think what we realise from that is the engineer is looking at probably a track map and data.
And this is Russell. This is George Russell, late on the brakes, very late on the brakes, and he's into the side of Sergio Perez, who's very close to losing a couple of positions in two corners. He went over the road and went back past Carlos Sainz. He knows he can't do that. He backs off. Contact between the Red Bull and the Mercedes.
Yeah, no, well, I think that would fall into the category of forcing another car off the road. Checo will be able to look at his lap delta and know that he needs to drop back, so he's not gained too much an advantage from staying in front. But I don't think there was any way they would have both made the corner had Checo taken it.
He just fully turned into me. I was up the inside, and he just turned in and I had to take the car.
So keep them within 5 seconds and might get a penalty.
Sainz comes into the pits.
Why? Jeez, this is giving him a lot to do in 10 laps.
They don't believe they can get those medium tyres to the end. They will pause for the 5 seconds. The penalty that they incurred when they made an unsafe release under the safety car earlier on, and then they will get to work. So Sainz is going to lose an awful amount of time there. That's a lot of work for him to do in the final stages. He's going to come out behind Fernando Alonso, still got to wait for it, still at the pit lane speed limit. This is why no one really wanted to make two stops, and there's the white line where he can finally release it. Sainz dropping from a fine move on Perez for third, all the way down to 9th position. Ferrari are having a day to forget in the south of France.
Yeah, okay, if the tires couldn't make it to the end, then they had no choice. But if they think they could have got to the end, I just don't see how, with 10 laps remaining, he can make up that much time. Anyway, so here's the DRS pass. George, space on the inside. And no, I don't agree that Perez just turned into him. He tried to give him some space, and they basically, played it out through the apex.
He hit me, man. He pushed me off.
Copy, Checo.
Interesting to see what race control make of that. There's not been a lot of grip for all of the categories running today on the inside of that chicane.
George, you can still do that on the track, even.
Come on, guy, we need to do something. He went straight on. We need to save his time.
And George, we were not ahead there.
So George being overruled on the radio. You can hear how hyped up he is to try and get past. The incident is now being noted by race control. George Russell under investigation for causing a collision. Russell trying to get past on track.
to rear wheel is the rule if you're attacking. I would definitely from wheel to rear wheel.
Yeah, okay, George. Focus now. Focus. You can still do this on track. You can argue about it afterwards. It's been noted by the stewards. It's now out of your control. Wise man once, yeah, sorry.
Go on.
Well, I was just going to say, a wise man once told me, you focus your energy on what you can influence, and you can influence the stewards from inside the car. They've got all the information.
And if he gets a penalty for making contact, we're not going to be able to broadcast any of it. So he's very much on the warpath here, both on the radio and on the racetrack, as George Russell looking for his 4th podium with the Mercedes team.
George, keep your head down. You can hunt him down.
Toto Wolff intervening, almost demanding the focus that you talked about, David.
Yeah, that's great, isn't it? We haven't heard much from Toto this year. Probably a reflection of the difficult, well, we say a difficult season. They've had a few podiums, so it's not all bad, but clearly not the season that we've been used to from Mercedes.
No further incident for causing a collision. So the steward's just saying it was racing, saying Perez was fine to jump over the chicane, and battle rejoined on track then. Russell can try and go again after the stewards take no action for that.
Yeah, I tend to agree. That was a racing incident. Something wasn't clear that George had enough of his car through to claim the corner, and there was definitely contact. So let's get the heads down and get on with it. I think Sainz has the pace to be able to get up to 5th. He'll be able to make his way through to where Alonso is, but it's going to be way too far ahead for Russell. So that really then just brings us, as we get a replay coming into turn 11, look at the difference in grip. The McLaren running the wide line, and Sainz just hangs it tight around the inside.
Tough few moments for McLaren because one car was past Esteban Ocon through senior corner. A French driver for a French team at the French Grand Prix, and another stunning move around the outside to take 8th position. He will want a copy of that and just replay it and replay it and replay it.
I don't understand why we boxed. We would have pulled away.
Yeah, short in tire life.
Can George Russell go for the move? He darts to try and make himself large in the mirrors of Sergio Perez, but he can't get by. And this one is going to have a second act. Perez just on the back foot. Track where he was on the podium here last year. He's had a great run. He's scoring podiums all the way through this year. It's been by far Sergio Perez's most competitive season in Formula One. As we go on board with Carlos Sainz, Perez has been on the podium 6 times this year. That's his best collection of podiums in a Formula One season. It started in 2011. We're gaining. We're in another league of grip compared to Fernando Alonso, and so we're roaring around the outside. Another position gained for Sainz. Not happy with what his team have done with the strategy, but he is tearing past them. The problem is now that he's 20 seconds off a car that he was ahead of on track before. Russell 0.3 of a second away, now 0.4 of a second away. The best thing about Carlos Sainz's day was that move into turn 15. It was spectacular, but Ferrari, with a rapid car, will wonder how this one has got away from them. Five to go. Max Verstappen has a 10-second lead. Lewis Hamilton is looking set for his 4th podium in a row at his 300th Grand Prix start, and these two are scrapping about who joins them. George Russell has 4 career podiums, 3 with Mercedes, 1 with Williams, and the one-lap Grand Prix that never was in Belgium last year, and he's never stood on the podium with a Mercedes teammate. Mercedes have not put 2 cars on the rostrum all year long. Sergio Perez chasing career podium number 22. A driver who used to make a career of taking a midfield car, running a ludicrous length on the Pirelli tyres, and then finding himself in 3rd position. He won his first Grand Prix in 2020, the only race that Lewis Hamilton has missed in a run of 300 Grand Prix starts since he started in 2007. It's Hamilton's teammate, George Russell, who we've been focusing on lap after lap after lap. That exit at turn 6 is protecting the Mexican driver at the moment, and it looks difficult for him across multiple corners of the racetrack.
5 laps to go.
I don't understand.
Yeah. Well, let me finish the rest of the sentence. I don't understand the strategy decision.
There's Zhou Guanyu, who's pulled to the side of the road.
Okay, does that require a virtual safety car? Because that car will not be recovered easily. We may well find ourselves going virtual for a lap or 2.
It's likely that they're going to have to throw that. Red Bull immediately prepared,
just in case they go with the safety car. Down to the race director to decide. Meanwhile, George Russell continues applying the pressure to Checo Perez.
Virtual safety car is out, so we will not get a last lap shootout for a full safety car. That's not required, and Red Bull stand down, so everyone reduces their speed. And Zhou Guanyu with a day to forget. There's plenty of days to forget out there for so many in the field. Latifi, Magnussen, Tsunoda, the former race leader Charles Leclerc out of the Grand Prix, and now Zhou Guanyu, after getting that penalty for contact with Mick Schumacher earlier in the race, now finds himself out of the contest. And be very, very important that Perez and Russell, there's an opportunity to react.
Can we do a free stop if this stays?
Stand by, Max.
The answer to that is no. You need 16 seconds under the virtual safety car. The virtual safety car that is now being withdrawn. So where it is withdrawn, it's not at the end of the lap like the full safety car. So when it goes, there's an opportunity for George Russell, and George Russell knew it. He was waiting for that opportunity. Now Perez is not on the racing line that he wants to be on. Remember, when you wear through the tyres, the virtual safety car is ending, so it looked like it had been withdrawn, and now just ending, and they bolted, and there's a huge gap between the two of them now, and that was confusion out there, and that gap has elongated massively between the two of them. What happened there? So here we go, it's ending. You've got to stick to the minimum speed as prescribed by the virtual safety car. And Russell much closer now to Perez once again. These two with an entertaining battle at the end of the French Grand Prix. So 4:28, virtual safety car ending, and we're racing now, and George Russell has got him. George Russell reacts. The virtual safety car looks like it was withdrawn. It was withdrawn again, and George Russell puts a second Mercedes on the podium, and he reacted to the green flag flying around this racetrack quicker than Perez, but there was confusion there. Now Perez has DRS, but George Russell has the place. These two have made contact earlier in the Grand Prix, but it's Russell up to third, and that was a strange occurrence. Race control, it appeared to be withdrawn. There was a big gap. The gap came down, and when we eventually went back to green flag racing, it was Russell who reacted best and took the place. Perez won't let George Russell go. He's staying with him. This one is going to go to the final lap of the race. A race that since Charles Leclerc retired, Max Verstappen has dominated to take a stranglehold of the World Championship.
Russell went out. Russell went off the track into turn 6. Copy, check out.
He's not too far away here. So the fantastic new regulations that allow pass and repass, these tyres look done. Russell wide again. If he was wide in 6, he was even wider there through turn 12. And we're on the final lap of the Grand Prix. This one is not resolved in the battle for third place. So we're on the final lap of the French Grand Prix. Max Verstappen with a sizable advantage over Lewis Hamilton. They are set to feature on a Formula One podium for the 50th time. But will it be the Mexican driver or the Brit who joins them? Russell leads ahead. Less than 4 miles to go in this Grand Prix. Russell feeling the pressure there. Heaped on through Seine Corner, and Le Beausset was wide through turn 12 after that. And Russell harrying the car, desperate for it. Can Perez stay close? Perez appealing that Russell was wide through turn 6. That's the corner that protects your momentum onto the Mistral straight. It's this one right here, and it's all four wheels absolutely on the racetrack for George Russell, who reacted well to the virtual safety car being withdrawn. And this is the DRS zone. Perez thinking about the late lunge, thinking better of it, trying to scare George Russell into an error. Slightly deep there, but not deep enough for the Mexican driver, who can't do anything about it now.
Russell went out again.
Yeah, copy.
Perez, who has scored 21 of them, looks like he might be denied. But out front, Max Verstappen. Oh, Perez is close to the move. As they complete their race, Max Verstappen comes around the final corner of the last lap. The Dutchman looks up and sees the checkered flag first. Max Verstappen wins the French Grand Prix to take hold of the World Championship battle and extend his lead by miles at this stage of the season. Lewis Hamilton will come home for his best result in 2022, and George Russell makes it 2 Mercedes on the podium in a thrilling scrap with Sergio Perez at the end. It's Max Verstappen who's taken the win. It's a better day than the Mercedes have seen for some time. And it's Sergio Perez denied, as the Aston Martins on the last lap are scrapping for the final point. And in a race where we've waited for the action, it's come alive at the end. The French flags are waving around this circuit, but can we see a move at the end? Teammate versus teammate. Lance Stroll defending from a 4-time world champion. This for the final point. Sainz has come home in 5th. Then it's Alonso, Norris, Ocon, Ricciardo, and very nearly into the back of his teammate. It's Stroll who hangs on for the final points-paying position across the line. Great entertainment from the first to the last at the French Grand Prix. And after Leclerc found the wall, no one was denying this man the victory. The runaway championship leader.
Yeah, well done, Max. Well closed off. Shame, I think it would have been a good race. Nonetheless, you brought it home.
Good points again, Dan. Really good. Good stuff.
Attaboy, Max. That's a decent result today. Maximum points. Well done.
Yeah, we did well there. Where did Jacques finish at the end?
P4.
Okay. Well, still good points for the team in general.
Max Verstappen summing it all up. Adrian Newey and Christian Horner must believe that it is looking like a second world championship for Max Verstappen. Pivotal day in the title battle.
Yes, Lewis. Great drive there, man. What a beautiful bit of work there.
Great job, guys. That's an incredible result for the team. Just shows all the hard work we're doing. Let's keep pushing.
Yes, mate.
Great job, George.
To both of you, really good. We are lacking pace. We know that in certain stages of the weekend when we push so hard to bring you back in the position to win. But 2 and 3 is something.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's awesome. Let's keep pushing, Toto.
That's a double.
Yes, come on.
Well done. Well
Nicely done. Nicely done. That was a good restart. That was a good restart. Well done, guys. Brilliant result. Brilliant, brilliant.
Here's the winner. Max Verstappen does the job. It was a thrilling contest between the top two drivers in the championship at the start. But before Charles Leclerc could even make his stop off the road. And what a landmark for Max Verstappen, equaling the great Sir Jackie Stewart with win 27 in Formula One. And our very own David Coulthard has made his way down to speak to the top three.
That's good. You knew what that was. Let me stay in front of the screen.
George Russell, congratulations. A very hard-fought third place on the podium there. Put us in the cockpit. That was quite a battle with Checo Perez.
Yeah, thank you. I'm absolutely sweated. A bit knackered now, to be honest. It was a long race, tough race. The pace was strong, but we really struggled with the warm-up on that restart, and Checo was all over me. But I was glad to see that checker flag and come home P3.
We just see behind you on the screen here the initial contact you had at the chicane. You were quite vocal to your team, and we heard Toto saying, right, get focused, get on with the job, and then the opportunity came to you later in the race.
Yeah, I mean, I saw him struggling when Sainz got past. I knew I had that one opportunity. For me, I was down the inside. The rules are pretty clear. It's from front wheel to rear wheel when you're on the inside. That's what I had. Didn't really leave me much space, but nevertheless, glad I could carry on, bring it home P3, and 2 podiums for Mercedes. It's great.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've had 2 Mercedes drivers up there together, so it'll be welcome to see you there beside Lewis. Congratulations on the podium, and we'll see you in Budapest.
Thank you.
So Lewis Hamilton, congratulations, second place. We didn't see a lot of you during that race. We didn't see a great deal of you during that race. You were running alone for most of it, but that's a really strong result.
Well, I have to always give it up to this big crowd we have here in France. This is the biggest crowd I think we've had here. Merci beaucoup. What an amazing weather we've had. And that was actually a tough race because my drinks bottle didn't work. But what a great result, considering we've been so far off these guys all weekend. Reliability is one thing that my team's been amazing at. So a huge congratulations to the team back at the 2 factories, the team here who, without them, we couldn't get this podium. And George did an amazing job today as well. So,
explain to the viewers at home, no drink bottle, how much weight would you have lost during that Grand Prix, one of the hottest of the season?
I didn't see my weight just now, but I would imagine probably around 3 kilos. So, yeah, it's enough. I'm looking forward to downing the rest of this drink, and I wish everyone back home, hope they've had an amazing Sunday.
Okay, Lewis, just one more quick one. Qualifying pace didn't seem like you'd move forward, but the race pace, once again, very strong. What can we hope for Budapest next Grand Prix?
Budapest? Well, firstly, I love it in Budapest. I'm super excited to see the crowd there. And I mean, it's going to be hard to beat the Ferraris and the Red Bulls. You see they have the pace advantage still. But I'm hoping we will bring some sort of upgrade to that track and hopefully take a step forward closer to them. And you know, you can see us in the race, we can at least lean on them a little bit. So hopefully in that race, even closer.
Okay, Lewis, go and get yourself a drink. Thank you very much, and well done on your podium. And ladies and gentlemen, the winner of the French Grand Prix, Max Verstappen. So that was a kind of race of two halves for you. We had that first half where you were battling hard and close with Charles, putting pressure on him. He was handling that very well. And then once you made that early stop, we now know that Charles lost the rear at turn 11. So talk us through those two phases of the race. And we also heard you very sportingly ask your engineer, was Charles okay?
Yeah, I mean, I think we had really good pace from the start. I was putting pressure on Charles, but following around here with this heat, you know, the tires are overheating a lot, so I could never really like go for a move, only once, you know, into turn 11. But yeah, we just tried to stay calm, tried to stay close. Of course, we pitted a bit earlier. And yeah, from there onwards, you never know how the race is going to go. But the car was quick today, and of course, unlucky for Charles, I hope he's okay. And from there onwards, I just did my race, looked after the tires. Because of the pit lane, of course, being so long, you couldn't do another stop. So you had to stay out, but the tires were wearing a lot. So it was all about just looking after the tires to the end.
Well, you obviously managed the race extremely well. I'm just fascinated by the psychology of your battle with Charles. He's the man that's running you closest in the championship so far. Does this feel like any other victory, or does it feel slightly less when you know that your main competitor wasn't there battling with you right to the end?
I always just try to get the most points possible. And of course, you know, some moves you see they're on, and sometimes you have to just back out and wait maybe for the end of the race, and that's what we did. And I mean, there are plenty more races to come where you have to score points. So yeah, in that aspect, I think today was a great day.
It was a great day indeed. If we can maybe just throw it forward, not long until we go to Hungary before your summer break, what do you think the characteristics of that racetrack should suit?
We still have a bit of work to do over a single lap especially, so we'll just keep working.
Okay, Max, congratulations. Go and enjoy the podium.
Fernando made quite a good move. I was still behind Checo.
No water, Audrey. All rest.
Do you want more water? You want more water? Or?
No, no. You just made a mistake, huh?
It's throttle blockage.
Throttle blockage?
Yeah, that's what they say on the radio.
Well, throttle came back in.
No, throttle block in the corner, like that.
It's time to start the celebrations on a day where Charles Leclerc could easily have finished in the top three. He is now retired from the lead at 3 different Grand Prix this year, and a potential loss of 75 points. Here are the drivers that made it, starting with George Russell, who makes his way onto the podium 4th time with Mercedes and the 5th time in his Formula One career. Lewis Hamilton celebrates a landmark day in 2nd place, but it was such hard work out there. He needed to lie down in the cool-down room. He extends the all-time podium record with that 2nd place in his 300th Grand Prix. But it's Max Verstappen who ties Jackie Stewart's record of 27 victories. He's not even 25 yet. On the day that Max Verstappen became the Red Bull driver to start the most Grand Prix, moving ahead of our own Mark Webber, he wins for the 27th time, and he is tied for 7th place in the all-time win list. As a result, Red Bull celebrating another victory this year. It has been outstanding performance for them. They have now taken 8 wins in the season. Lewis Hamilton celebrating his best result of the year. The first top 2 finish for Mercedes in 2022 as the Wolves look on. And George Russell had to work hard for it and got his reward. I think he's just about recovered. It's a day where you definitely want a sip of this. In the roasting heat of La Castellet, Max Verstappen lifts the French Grand Prix trophy and will think about having one hand on the World Championship trophy. There's a long way to go. We've seen a lot of unreliability, but every driver in the field would love to have a 63-point lead after 12 races. Mercedes are inching back closer, and Ferrari have questions to answer with strategy, with reliability, and with what happened with Charles Leclerc. Let's take a look at the Drivers' World Championship then, and a 63-point lead for Max Verstappen over Charles Leclerc, who remains in 2nd place. That's about the only good thing you can say about his day. Sergio Perez is 3rd. Carlos Sainz is 1 point ahead of George Russell, who leads the Battle of the Brits. Then comes Hamilton ahead of Norris, Esteban Ocon, Valtteri Bottas, and Fernando Alonso having a strong day. He's 10th in the championship on 37 points. Then it's Magnussen, Daniel Ricciardo, and Pierre Gasly, Vettel, Schumacher, and Tsunoda having tough days. Zhou Guanyu retired, and it's Lance Stroll and Alexander Albon. Still no point this year for Nicholas Latifi. Ferrari had some serious pace today, but it's Red Bull who extend their lead in the Constructors' Championship. Then come Ferrari, Mercedes, and now Alpine up to 4th ahead of McLaren. It's Alfa Romeo, then Haas, AlphaTauri, Aston, and Williams, the order for the teams.